Gladiator 2 is out all around the world. I saw it last week. Let's have a chat about it. I'm Harry, this is the Review Lab, let's get into it. Now, over 2 decades since the release of Gladiator back in 2000, Ridley Scott returns to the world with a sequel that is quite frankly huge in scope. Starring the likes of Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal, Denzel Washington amongst many others, the story revolves around Mescal's character known as Hanno. When his village is attacked and his wife is killed at the hands of a Roman army, who is led by Pedro Pascal on behalf of the 2 Roman emperors, Hanno is quickly taken in as a slave, sold to Macrinus, who is played by Denzel Washington, and quickly is trained to become a gladiator and get his revenge. Now, I'm not going to go into more spoilers than that. Some of you may know other details of Paul Mescal's character and other characters in the film, but I'm going to keep it quite stripped back so people can go into this film spoiler free. Like I said at the start, this film is massive in its scope. Returning director Ridley Scott does not hold back with his world building and action set pieces. Barring some dodgy CGI animals towards the beginning, everything in the world looks and feels real and is believable, and that's because they built all of these sets so they didn't have to rely too heavily on visual effects, and I think this works in the film's favour and helps draw you into the story. Now, for the first 3/4 of this movie, I was fully invested in both the story and its characters. I loved seeing how each character played a part of both the world around them and the story that Ridley was telling. However, when it got to the third act, I felt the pacing very quickly increased and causes the final 30 minutes of the film to become quite messy and abrupt. Now, some say that the original film suffers with the same issues. However, I found it much more noticeable with this film, to a point where I kind of wish they either added some more time onto the ending so that it could be paced more naturally, or taken a chunk out towards the start and then used that time again to make the ending feel more natural. The film also expectedly calls back to the original quite a lot. Now, it's not required that you watch the first film before seeing this. You do get recaps, both subtle and not so subtle, throughout the film to help remind you of the previous events. Maximus, as played originally by Russell Crowe, is mentioned quite a few times, and I think at first this was okay, especially when seeing characters from the original film reappear. But then towards the end of the film, as Maximus keeps getting mentioned, I got a little tired of just how much he was being referenced, and I wanted the film to now break away and focus purely on Paul Mescal's character. Now, that is not to say that this isn't a good film. I think it's a great film with a very strong story. I think the use of its leads, particularly with Paul Mescal and Denzel Washington, really help the film stand out, alongside the use of the film's soundtrack, the use of designs of costumes and sets, and also all of its set pieces. Each scene within the Colosseum I absolutely loved. Each time it showed you a different part of the games, whether the protagonist faces different animals, a battle by sea, or even a simple one-on-one. Each set piece brought a new variety that I really enjoyed, to a point I kind of wish some had gone on a little longer. Now, overall, Gladiator 2 is a very impressive film. It has a great cast and a solid story. It's a very worthy sequel to its predecessor, whilst its pacing and callbacks do let it down towards the end, again alongside some questionable looking CGI animals. I do think it's a film worthy of your time, especially in a cinema like IMAX. You can see how this film was made to be seen on the biggest screen with the best speakers possible, and it will definitely heighten your experience. Here at the Review Lab, we give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Have you seen Gladiator 2 yet? What do you think? Comment below, let us know, we'd love to hear from you.